The laboratory air aboard the Zarkorn Apex research ship was sterile, humming with a cold indifference of machinery and bureaucracy. Monitors blinked with unreadable glyphs, and the scent of disinfectant clung to everything like static electricity. 12 members of the Galactic Research Division stood in a semicircle, watching the observation dome as if it were a sacred altar. Inside the dome, the specimen sat on a steel bench, legs spread with reckless confidence, chewing something noisily. The translator embedded in the glass wall clicked uncertainly every few seconds, like it was afraid of what it might translate next. Specimen number 47, announced Dr. Zarnax, 12, his tone proud, nasal, and unbearably smug. Species, Homo sapiens. Male. Age, 32 Earth years. Occupation, undetermined. Possibly a mechanic or a ritual combatant. Another researcher, Analyst Rock, squinted at the tablet in his claws. Self-identifies as the wrench? Yes. A peculiar Earth custom. Nicknames. Arbitrary and rarely mechanical. Zarnax folded his 4 hands behind his back. Nonetheless, this human, while appearing physically average, has demonstrated behavior inconsistent with standard prey animal intelligence. Inside the dome, the human suddenly stood, cracked his knuckles, and began performing stretches. He bent sideways, grunted loudly, and muttered something unintelligible. What did he say? Vrock whispered. The translator beeped. He said, and I quote, "These buns ain't gonna stretch themselves, baby." There was a collective silence among the Empire's most brilliant minds. Vrock adjusted his monocle. Specimen number 47, real name Danny Russo, was not the first human the Galactic Empire had acquired. But he was the first one to make it this far without dying, crying, or asking to phone something called a lawyer. He hadn't screamed during the abduction. He hadn't flinched during DNA extraction. He had, however, sucker-punched a 30-foot lizard guard in the jaw for trying to take his bandana. That had earned Danny a reputation. It had also earned him 3 extra guards and a continuous monitoring team, who now had a betting pool on his next outburst. Danny scratched his chest absently, then turned toward the mirrored wall. "I know you're watching, freakazoids. Tell Fishface I want my wrench back." The translator hesitated, then reluctantly obeyed. Dr. Zarnax raised an eyebrow. He demands the return of a tool he carried when captured. "It's ceremonial," offered Vrock. "It's a wrench." A rusted wrench. Danny leaned against the glass, breathing fog into it, then used his finger to draw something crude and anatomically offensive. Zarnax cleared his throat. "Enough observation. Prepare the integration trial. I want to see how this specimen responds to controlled predator exposure." Vrock flinched. "You're going to give him a Krasketh test this early?" Zarnax's eyes gleamed with intellectual bloodlust. "He is not as fragile as previously believed. If he is truly representative of Earth's apex resilience, then we must verify." Inside the dome, Danny had begun shadowboxing. Each punch came with a sound effect. Whoosh. Bap left hook, baby. Uppercut of doom. Vrock winced. "He's announcing his own attacks." "I believe it's psychological warfare," murmured Zarnax. Danny stopped, looked straight at the observation glass, and grinned. The room shifted. A faint unease spread through the alien researchers. Something about that smile. It wasn't fear. It wasn't confusion. It was amusement. As if he already knew he was the most dangerous thing in the room. Danny cracked his neck and said, "Let me guess. You're about to throw some big-ass alien monster at me to see if I scream and cry like a little wimp, right?" The translator clicked. Zarnax bristled. Vrock stepped closer to the screen. "Wait. How does he know?" "Because I've seen this movie before," Danny interrupted, almost bored. "Y'all ever seen Predator?" "No. Didn't think so. Bunch of nerds. Anyway, bring on the ugly bastard. I got nothing but time and rage." Zarnax whispered something in his native tongue, low, gravelly, reverent. The word translated loosely, as begin the trial. The chamber rumbled. A second dome hissed open behind Danny. Mist coiled into the room. From it emerged a low growl, wet and animalistic. four-clawed feet stepped forward, followed by a spiked tail and a body covered in iridescent scales. The creature towered over Danny, easily twice his height. Yellow eyes blinked sideways. Its breath steamed with acid vapor. Zraltaith, the Empire's genetically perfected apex predator. Danny stared at it, blinked, then muttered, "Ah hell, you brought me a dollar store T-Rex with a glow-up." The creature roared. Danny roared back. Zarnax nearly dropped his tablet. The predator lunged. Danny sidestepped, rolled, and threw a left hook straight into the creature's ribcage. The beast stumbled. He laughed. "Oh, you flinched. You flinched." The alien scientist gasped. Vrock whispered, "Did he mock the apex predator?" Danny danced around it, taunting it in a rhythm almost musical. "Float like a butterfly, sting like..." The predator snarled and snapped, missing by inches. "Yo mama's lasagna." Zarnax was speechless. The creature lunged again. Danny ducked low, grabbed a pipe that had fallen from the wall, and smashed it into the beast's snout. The crack echoed. The predator yelped. Danny backed up, grinning like a lunatic. "Okay, now we're having fun." On the other side of the observation glass, panic took root. "This shouldn't be possible," Vrock whispered. "He's outmatched in strength, speed, biology." "Tell that to Zraltaith's nose." Danny circled the predator, who was now breathing heavier. His movements became more calculated, precise. Each jab landed with confidence. He wasn't just reacting. He was enjoying himself. "Yo, ugly. You ever get punched so hard you rethought your entire evolutionary tree?" The creature bellowed and charged. Danny sidestepped, grabbed its tail, planted his feet, and with a grunt that echoed across the dome, threw the apex predator into a wall. The ship went silent. Zarnax opened his mouth, then closed it, then opened it again. Danny wiped sweat from his brow, grinning. "Okay, now that was cardio." The creature staggered up. Blood, if you could call the glowing teal liquid blood, dripped from its jaw. It hesitated. Actually hesitated. Danny saw it. "Oh no. No, you don't. You don't get to quit now. We're just getting started." He walked up slowly. The beast snarled one last time. Danny growled back. The creature lunged. And, in one impossible, physics-defying moment, Danny ducked, stepped inside the beast's guard, grabbed its lower jaw with one hand and the upper jaw with the other, and ripped its skull in two with a primal scream. The alien researcher screamed. Zraltaith's remains collapsed to the ground. Danny dropped to one knee, breathing hard. Phew. That was a hell of a Tuesday. Zarnax dropped his datapad. He tore it apart. With his bare hands. Vrock backed away slowly. "I think we made a mistake." Danny looked up at the mirrored wall, sweat-drenched and triumphant. "Hey, Fishface, you got any real challenges around here, or was that just warm-up?" The translator beeped nervously, then played the message in the original human's own voice, perfectly timed and accented. Even the ship paused, as if afraid to respond. In the silence, something shifted in the Galactic Empire. For centuries, they had believed themselves the peak of evolution. But now, in the wreckage of their perfect predator, covered in alien blood, stood a human male with a Brooklyn accent and a wrench-shaped chip on his shoulder. And for the first time in living memory, the Empire didn't feel superior. It felt afraid. In the observation chamber, someone whispered the words already trending on every galactic network. "Send word to the High Council. Earth is not to be provoked." Danny stood, rolled his shoulders, and looked at the next hatch with a grin that could cause revolutions. "Let's dance, you alien freaks." The footage didn't take long to spread. By the time Danny Russo had finished dusting off his hands and requesting a sandwich, preferably pastrami, but I'll take whatever doesn't bleed neon, the video of him tearing the Empire's apex predator in half was already trending across 6 galactic sectors. The Empire had tried to censor it. Tried hard. They deployed censors, cyber warriors, and one very confused squid-like lawyer named GRTHN to argue copyright infringement. None of it worked. The galaxy had seen it. Every frame. From the initial grin to the final suplex that sent a 5-ton apex killing machine cartwheeling into a reinforced alloy wall. The humans had arrived. And they weren't subtle about it. Inside the Zarkorn's lower observation wing, a different kind of predator was now circling. Not beast, but bureaucracy. High Advisor Threllick, a trilateral being with the personality of a melted paperclip, hovered mid-air in his anti-grav throne, his voice high-pitched with restrained panic. "You released Zrul Taith on the specimen?" he shrieked. "I followed Protocol 87B," Dr. Zarnax replied, arms crossed but noticeably trembling. Protocol 87B is for enhanced rodents, not sentient deathworlders. Vrock stood off to the side, quietly eating what appeared to be a compressed protein cube and avoiding eye contact. He was no longer taking notes. He was updating his will. "I didn't anticipate the human would engage in direct wrestling," Zarnax said flatly. "He powerbombed a bioweapon. Twice." "No, 3 times, muttered Vrock. "There was a reverse suplex near the end." Threllick turned his eye stalks toward the display monitor. It looped the moment Danny twisted the predator's head like a pickle jar, grinning all the while. "And he is unaugmented?" Threllick asked, slowly. "Baseline human," Zarnax muttered. "Muscle density within Earth norm. Slightly elevated adrenaline curve. High levels of sodium. That may be dietary." "Of course it is," Vrock whispered. "He keeps shouting about something called bacon." "I want him studied." "No, quarantined," Threllick barked. "Do you understand what happens if the galactic community believes Earthlings can dismantle our apex creatures with charisma and elbow grease?" The door behind them hissed open. Danny walked in. No guards. No escort. He just strolled into the Imperial debriefing chamber with all the swagger of a man who once talked his way out of 4 parking tickets and into a VIP club with nothing but a fake mustache and an Arnold Schwarzenegger impression. "Sup," he said. Threllick twitched. Danny dropped into the nearest floating chair like it owed him money. "Y'all got terrible snacks, by the way. That blue jelly stuff tastes like minty regret." Zarnax tried to look composed. "Specimen. Danny. Mr. Russo. Still Danny. You are in violation of multiple containment protocols." Danny leaned forward, elbows on knees, and smirked. "Buddy, your containment protocols lasted about 6 minutes. I've had dental appointments more threatening than your space lion back there." "You tore it in half," Threllick said, voice cracking. Danny shrugged. "It tried to eat me. I took that personally." There was silence. Thick, awkward, and deeply terrifying. Threllick gathered himself. "You are to remain in quarters until the Empire can determine." "Too late," Danny interrupted, pointing at the monitor. "You see that? That vid has 17 billion views. I got memes now. Some Glorvax kid made a remix track of me ripping that thing in half to the tune of Eye of the Tiger." Zarnax blinked. "What is a tiger?" "Exactly," Danny said, grinning. "We've got those back home. Apex? Please. We wrestle gators in Florida for fun. And that's just on a Tuesday." The door hissed open again. This time, another human entered. A woman, tall, broad-shouldered, with dark skin and hair braided back into thick cords. She wore Empire-issued fatigues like they were gym clothes and held a stolen plasma rifle like a purse. She sauntered in, chewing gum. "Lakeisha Jackson, United States Marine Corps," she said, slapping the rifle on the table. "This still loaded? Feels heavy." Danny lit up. "Yo, Lakeisha, you made it out of that cryo cell." "Got bored. Ripped the door off. These idiots forgot humans use leverage." She turned to Threllick. "You guys ever heard of physics?" "No. Didn't think so." Threllick looked ready to burst a gland. "She's another one?" Zarnax whispered. "Another supplexer?" Lakeisha winked. "Baby, I was flipping tires in boot camp before y'all were born in your goo tanks." Danny leaned back. "Anyway, I'm guessing this is the part where you try to intimidate us. Maybe roll out another science beast with claws, acid breath, and 6 rows of teeth." Threllick hesitated. "Because I got news for you," Danny continued. "That thing? That was the tutorial level." The table monitor buzzed. A warning appeared. "Intraship transport active. Level 7 biolife release imminent." Vrock paled. No small feat for a lavender-skinned quadruped. You're doing another trial?" he gasped. Zarnax didn't answer. He was watching Danny. Not like a scientist. Like a believer. Danny stood, cracked his neck, and smirked. "Guess we're doing a sequel." The arena was bigger this time. Dome-shaped, with columns designed to collapse dramatically and lighting meant to emphasize panic. Observers watched from above, a tiered gallery of galactic elites, generals, and one sentient fungus with too many opinions. The floor opened. Steam hissed. Something massive rose from beneath. It was four-legged, armored in obsidian plates, with jaws that split open in 8 directions. Acid drooled from its mouth. 2 tails coiled like whips. Its name was Irukhthau. It meant the one who devours stars in ancient Zurin. Lakeisha leaned against the railing. "I give it 3 minutes." Danny rolled his shoulders. "You're on." The creature roared. Danny roared back. This time, the beast struck first, lunging with shocking speed. Danny dodged, slid under, and came up with a chunk of debris in hand. He flung it like a discus. It smashed into the beast's flank. The audience gasped. He didn't wait. He sprinted. Sprinted at a thing that most species fled from on sight. As it turned to bite, Danny launched into the air, caught its horn, and pivoted over its back. "Oh," he shouted. "This is better than Six Flags." The beast bucked. Danny held on. Threllick whispered, "He's riding it." Vrock awed like a rodeo. Lakeisha looked up. "You folks got popcorn?" Danny reached the beast's neck, grabbed a spike, and twisted. The creature shrieked. Then he leapt off, and brought both fists down in a double hammer punch on its spine. The room shook. Danny landed, rolled, and popped up with a grin. 2 minutes, 30 seconds, he called. The creature was stunned. Not out, but definitely thinking about it. Danny sprinted again. This time he vaulted over a boulder, launched off a pillar, and drop-kicked the beast in the side of the head. It toppled. The room was silent. Danny walked over, climbed the thing's chest, and raised both arms. Lakeisha stood and shouted down, "Finish it." Danny nodded, turned, wrapped his arms around its neck, and suplexed the apex predator into the ground so hard the floor cracked. Silence. Then a slow, involuntary clap. One alien general, an old, crusty lizard with a mechanical arm, couldn't help himself. That was structurally impressive. Danny stood atop the beast like a wrestler on WrestleMania center stage, panting. "I told you," he said, loud and clear. "You can't engineer what humans already are. We're unpredictable. We're chaotic. And we never, ever tap out." In the observation deck, Threllick collapsed into his floating chair. "Activate emergency council protocol," he muttered. Zarnax didn't speak. He just watched Danny with something dangerously close to awe. Lakeisha turned to Vrock. "So, you still think we're unremarkable?" Vrock gave a slow shake of the head. "I think Earth is a mistake. One the universe is about to regret waking up." The broadcast ended with Danny dusting off his hands and turning toward the camera. "Tell your council," he said, grin wicked. "This is just the warm-up." Then he walked off screen, leaving only a crater, a groaning apex predator, and one singular truth echoing through every ship, satellite, and mind that had tuned in. Humans didn't need weapons. They were the weapon, and the galaxy had no idea what was coming next. There was a time when the Apex War Council operated with the calm of an eternal monarchy, unshaken, composed, and absolutely certain of its dominion over all known species. That time was yesterday. Today, they were screaming over each other like caffeinated meerkats in a vacuum-sealed elevator. "This is a contagion of perception," hissed High Strategist Jarlin, flaring his neck fronds in indignation. "One biped tears apart 2 of our apex creations, and now half the galaxy thinks humans are divine wrath made flesh." They cheered, snapped Grand Diplomat Clefra, slamming a tendril on the conference table. They cheered when he suplexed Irukhthau. "Do you understand what that means? That thing devoured a colony world last cycle. Now it's being compared to a mini-boss in a human battle sim called Doom Eternal." A murmur passed through the council chamber. The words Doom Eternal appeared on a data scroll. An aide fainted. From the rear of the council chamber, Counselor Grithti, a multi-eyed, millennia-aged political tactician, adjusted her translator node with a weary groan. Enough. We cannot allow panic to dictate protocol. The humans are obviously anomalous. Perhaps mutated, drug-enhanced. No, they're not, said a new voice, flat and certain. All heads turned. The speaker was a tall, angular figure in white-gray robes. Ambassador Vrock. Once a humble analyst on the Zarkorn ship, now assigned by imperial decree to serve as the first official envoy to Earth. He looked tired. There were deep lines under his violet eyes, and he hadn't let go of his datapad in over 20 hours. I've studied the footage, he said. I've interviewed the human known as Danny Russo. I've parsed his language, dissected his behaviors. There is no genetic modification, no external augmentation. What he did, what they all do, is standard operating procedure for Homo sapiens. The silence that followed was suffocating. You're saying, Grithti said slowly, this wasn't an aberration? No, Vrock replied. It's a Tuesday. A low, collective groan passed through the chamber like a death knell. Earth, he continued, is what humans call a death world. And unlike other death worlds, where intelligent species evolved despite the danger, humans evolved because of it. They've normalized chaos. They've turned disaster into sport. A hologram of Earth rotated above the center table, glowing blue and green. Consider their behaviors, Vrock said, gesturing. They climb vertical cliffs for fun. They enter underwater caverns with no visibility and call it recreation. They create artificial combat simulations where the sole objective is to defeat increasingly difficult opponents until they hallucinate from dehydration. One human voluntarily ran for 100 kilometers just to prove he could. You're lying, said Clefra, voice brittle. I wish I were, Vrock muttered. The hologram changed. Now it showed Earth's various predators: lions, sharks, bears. Then natural disasters, hurricanes, earthquakes, volcanoes. Then humans. The comparison was unsettling. Statistically, Vrock continued, they are one of the only species known to seek stronger opponents, even at the cost of personal harm. They willingly provoke creatures more powerful than themselves and call it a good story. Their motto, informally, is "Hold my beer." Counselor Grithti twitched. I don't know what a beer is, but I already hate it. You should, Vrock said. It's like a stupidity enhancer. Jarlin rose, trembling with fury. Then we must act. Preemptively. If Earth is a rogue death world teeming with biological time bombs in genes and sarcasm, we must neutralize it before they become a galactic contagion. No, Grithti said sharply. Direct attack is unwise. They've done nothing to provoke open war. And now that the footage has gone viral, Earth enjoys a mythic status. Any strike against them will be seen as weakness or fear. So what do? Jarlin barked. Grithti took a slow breath. We issue an empire-wide advisory. Avoid direct contact. Avoid confrontation. Avoid eye contact if possible. The words hung in the air. Eye contact. Clefra asked, incredulous. They take it as a challenge, Vrock said. Trust me. Back aboard the Zarkorn, Danny Russo was bench-pressing a containment pod. He didn't know what it was supposed to contain, probably something with teeth, but it made a great barbell. Each rep echoed through the training bay, drawing stares from terrified guards pretending to check wall panels. Across from him, Lakeisha practiced combinations with a weighted staff. Her strikes were surgical, rhythmic, like poetry with consequences. So, Danny grunted between reps, you see that memo? Which one? She asked, spinning the staff behind her back. The one from the War Council. Avoid eye contact with humans at all costs. He snorted. What, are we Medusas now? Lakeisha laughed. Nah, we're just inconvenient truths wrapped in protein and petty trauma. Danny dropped the pod with a clank. Pretty sure I saw one of the guards whisper, please don't look at me, when I walked past. I wasn't even mad. I was chewing gum. Terrifying, she said deadpan. Danny flopped down on a crate. So what's the plan? They're gonna keep throwing super beasts at us until one of them gets lucky. No, said a voice from the door. They both turned. Vrock stood there, hunched, clutching his datapad like a lifeline. We're done with beasts. Done with trials. The Council has issued a diplomatic moratorium on human experimentation and combat demonstration. Danny raised an eyebrow. Translation. They're afraid of you, Vrock said plainly. They want you off this ship. Out of sight. Out of their narrative. Lakeisha lowered her staff. They think if they don't look at us, we'll just go away? Vrock hesitated. Something like that. Danny leaned back, smirking. That's adorable. They think ignoring humans has ever worked. That's like ignoring a raccoon in your kitchen and expecting it to leave. You don't understand, Vrock said quietly. Your people are becoming symbols. Not just a power. Of defiance. Small systems are already refusing to pay empire taxes, claiming they want to do things the human way. There are riots. Protests. Someone started printing shirts. Shirts. Danny echoed. They say, supplex first, questions later. Lakeisha coughed to hide a laugh. Vrock looked exhausted. They're making you into legends. And the Empire doesn't know how to fight legends. Danny stood and walked over. Let me guess. That's why you're here. Damage control. No, Vrock said. I'm here to ask you a question. Danny tilted his head. Vrock met his eyes. What do you people want? Lakeisha blinked. Danny scratched his jaw. It wasn't a question they were used to. Usually, humans didn't get that far. They didn't usually survive long enough to be asked. Danny considered. We want a hot meal, a cold drink, and some respect. Also a proper gym, Lakeisha added. None of this weird jellyweight resistance crap. Danny nodded. And maybe, just maybe, a chance to show you we're more than Fight Club mascots. We've got poets, engineers, people who build, not just break. But you lot started this on the wrong foot. You picked the predators and forgot the rest. Vrock looked at him for a long moment. I'll tell them that, he said. And he meant it. Later that night, across hundreds of star systems, the official emergency broadcast scrolled across news feeds. Imperial notice. Humans from Earth are classified as Level 9 autonomous predators. Do not engage physically. Do not provoke. Do not maintain prolonged eye contact. Avoid conversational idioms. Refrain from offering challenges. Beneath that warning, a smaller text box blinked open, anonymously uploaded from an unknown origin. It reads simply, you thought strength came from claws, but it comes from choice. And humans? We choose to stand. Every time. Every world. Every fight. It was signed, the Wrench. The galaxy didn't sleep that night. And Earth, once considered irrelevant, was now the center of every strategist's nightmare. Because the humans weren't just strong. They were unstoppable. The Imperial emergency broadcast played across every starship, citadel, and outpost within the Galactic Empire. An uninterrupted loop of polished fear. A sterile voice delivered the message in a dozen tongues, each one monotone. Every syllable soaked in urgency. Emergency Directive 772. A. Do not engage humans in hand-to-hand combat. Repeat. Do not engage humans in hand-to-hand combat. Direct confrontation is considered a Level 10 hazard to biological, cybernetic, and hybrid entities. In the Grand War Chamber of the Apex Council, the High Generals sat in stiff, silent rows. No one argued. No one interrupted. Even General Vaxer, who once screamed down a dreadnought captain for blinking too loudly, kept his mandibles shut. At the center of the chamber, a hologram displayed a looping visual. Danny Russo, shirt torn, lip bloodied, and grin wider than a supernova, delivering a flying knee to a 40-ton armored beast, sending it reeling backward as alien soldiers scrambled out of the blast radius. He didn't roar. He laughed. High Strategist Zarnax, 12, formerly a man of unshakable belief in data and probability, now spoke with the caution of a priest who'd just learned his god bleeds. There is no algorithm to predict their aggression, he said softly. No readout for when they will escalate or how. They fight like chaos incarnate. Their weapons are not claws or venom. Their weapons are choice. And sarcasm, muttered Vrock, still half traumatized from earlier interviews. Don't forget sarcasm. The broadcast shifted. A second figure now appeared beside Danny in the footage, Lakeisha Jackson. Calm, composed, cracking her knuckles like a pianist before a concert. In the next moment, she vaulted 6 meters through the air and drove an elbow into a shock trooper's armored skull. The helmet cracked. The trooper wept. The council stared. They say she taught herself to do that after watching 3 human combat films, Zarnax continued. One of them involved a man named Jackie Chan. The other 2 were called John Wick and Step Up 3, Revolution. The silence that followed wasn't disbelief. It was dread. Finally, Grand Admiral Keltor, a creature with more confirmed kills than the Empire had moons, leaned forward. We are not truly afraid of the human strength, he said. We are afraid because they are enjoying this. There it was. The truth no one had wanted to admit. The humans weren't fighting because they had to. They were fighting because they wanted to. For challenge. For entertainment. For the sheer primal joy of it. And joy was the most unpredictable weapon of all. Back on the Zarkorn, in a chamber once reserved for torturous experiments, and now repurposed into a makeshift lounge, Danny Russo kicked back on a pile of obsolete thermal coils, tossing a stress ball made of impact foam back and forth. The bruises on his arms had darkened into badges of honor. His grin hadn't faded in days. Lakeisha sat nearby, examining an alien tactical schematic like it was a menu she didn't order from. They're scared, she said finally. Danny caught the ball. Yeah, took him long enough. They're gonna stop sending beasts, you know. No more apex predators. No more honor duels. Danny arched a brow. You saying I wasted that killer monologue about ripping spines and eating lightning? No, she smirked. That one's already a ringtone. Danny laughed, but it faded quicker than usual. He leaned forward, elbows on knees, expression sobering. You think they'll ever come around? He asked. Like actually see us? Lakeisha didn't answer right away. They see us, she said at last. They just can't handle what that means. That maybe they're not the final tier. That maybe the scrappy monkeys from the Blue Rock with anger issues and a love of Bruce Willis might actually belong in the ring. Danny nodded slowly. So what then? We keep dancing until someone calls cut. Before she could answer, Vrock entered. He looked like he hadn't slept since Earth discovered coffee. He held the data slab in one hand, and his eyes, usually jittery, were wide with purpose. We've got a situation, he said. The Empire just received a declaration. Lakeisha stood. From who? From the Kithari Confederation. Rival faction. Longtime enemy of the Empire. They're declaring Earth a neutral cultural zone. Danny squinted. That sounds like a trap. It is, Vrock confirmed. They're using your legend to make a political move. They want Earth on their side. They're offering you sovereignty, protection, an embassy. Danny exchanged a look with Lakeisha. Do they know we're still technically just lost tourists? Vrock snorted. They don't care. They just want the humans. Or rather, the idea of you. The unstoppable brawler. The living myth. Lakeisha folded her arms. So we're icons now. Danny tossed the foam ball again. I always wanted to be on a poster. You already are, Vrock said, pulling up a hologram. It showed Danny mid-suplex, captioned with the phrase, Don't start nothing, won't be nothing. Beautiful, Danny whispered, eyes misting. Vrock shook his head. This is spiraling. Galactic powers are lining up to make Earth their champion. And the Empire? They're doubling down, planning to send one final test. Danny stood slowly. Let me guess. Not another monster. Vrock's voice dropped. No. A warrior. One of theirs. Bio-enhanced. Battle-bred. Trained to counter human unpredictability. Lakeisha's eyes narrowed. They're trying to beat us at our own game. No, Danny said, stretching his shoulders. They're trying to copy us. That's worse. The ship trembled slightly. Overhead, sirens buzzed. A voice announced in clipped tones. Combat Trial 3. Final challenge initiating. Danny turned to Lakeisha. You want to take this one? Nah, she said, cracking her neck. This one's yours. I'll handle the after party. Danny grinned. That's what I like about you. Tactical priorities. They walked together toward the lift. Vrock followed, datapad clutched tight. You don't have to do this, he said, voice low. Danny paused, turned. Yes, I do. Vrock looked confused. But why? Danny smiled, not the cocky smirk he wore in battle, but a smaller, sharper smile. Because if we don't show em what real strength looks like, someone worse will. And then nobody laughs. The lift closed. The arena was different this time. No crowds. No spectators. Just Danny, a spotlight, and a figure across the sand. It was tall.